Friday night, 11:47 p.m. I'm brushing my teeth and my phone buzzes. Slack notification from a client's monitoring channel. Webhook endpoint returning 403 for all inbound events. I pull up the logs. Turns out I'd pushed a Cloudflare rule update that afternoon, tightened the WAF settings on their intake domain, and it silently broke the CORS headers on their order webhook. Every inbound order from their Shopify store had been bouncing for 6 hours. 6 hours on a Friday night, during a flash sale they'd been promoting all week. I fixed it in about 4 minutes. The actual remediation was trivial, one header rule, but the damage was already done. 40-something orders that never made it into the fulfillment pipeline. Client found out before I did. That's the part that kept me up. And here's what made it worse. The misconfiguration I introduced? Missing security headers on a public endpoint. That's not some exotic zero-day. That's the kind of thing a basic passive scan catches in under 2 minutes. A scan I could have been running automatically, every week, against every public endpoint I manage, and wasn't. That was 5 months ago. Since then, every Monday at 7 a.m., a Docker container spins up on my server, runs OWASP ZAP's baseline scan against every webhook, portal, and form endpoint in my inventory, and writes a report. If anything comes back at warning level or above, I get a Slack message with the severity, the rule, and the URL. If it's a fail, a ticket gets created in Linear automatically. The whole thing took me about 30 minutes to set up, and it would have saved me that Friday night. How many public endpoints are you exposing right now? Not the ones in your head, the actual count. Webhooks catching inbound data from client apps. Portals where clients log in. Form endpoints accepting submissions. If you can't name every one of them and tell me the last time something verified their security headers were intact, you're flying blind on the surfaces most likely to embarrass you. I'm Jordan. This is Headcount 0. And today I'm walking you through the exact OWASP ZAP automation setup I run. A passive baseline scan in Docker, scheduled with cron, that sweeps your endpoint inventory every week and routes anything serious to Slack and your ticket tracker. No security team, no paid tools, about 30 minutes of setup. So let me back up and explain why this matters specifically for us. Solo operators running client-facing automations. Every webhook you expose, every client portal you deploy, every form endpoint that accepts data, those are your attack surface. And unlike a company with a security team running quarterly pen tests, nobody is checking yours. You deploy it, it works, you move on to the next client project. And those endpoints just sit there, exposed, accumulating configuration drift every time you update a dependency or change a DNS rule. The kinds of issues I'm talking about aren't sophisticated exploits. They're missing HTTP security headers. Things like strict transport security, content security policy, X content type options. They're cookies without the secure flag. They're CORS misconfigurations. The boring stuff. The stuff that a procurement team's security review will flag in 5 minutes, and that you won't notice until it costs you a deal or, like my Friday night, costs you a client's trust. And the irony is, these are exactly the things a passive scan catches. No active attacks, no fuzzing, no injection testing. Just a crawler that looks at your responses and checks whether the basics are in place. That's where OWASP ZAP comes in. Specifically, a script called zap-baseline.py that ships inside Zap's official Docker images. The Zap team maintains these on both GitHub Container Registry and Docker Hub. The image you want is ghcr.io/zapproxy/zapproxy:stable. There's also a weekly tag if you want fresher add-ons, but stable is the right starting point. Here's what baseline actually does. It spiders your target URL for 1 minute by default. You can adjust that with the -m flag. And then it runs only passive scan rules against everything it finds. No active attacks. The Zap docs are explicit about this. Baseline is designed to be safe for CI pipelines and even production sites. It's not going to send malicious payloads to your endpoints. It's reading your responses and checking them against a rule set. When it finishes, it writes reports. You get HTML with -R, XML with -X, JSON with -J, and Markdown with -W. I generate all four because they cost nothing, and the JSON is what I pipe to Slack later. All of these land in a directory called /zap/wwork inside the container, which means you need to mount a local directory to that path, or your reports disappear when the container exits. That mount is the thing that trips people up first, by the way. You run the scan, it says it completed, and then you go looking for your report, and it's gone. The fix is simple. -v, your local directory, /zap/wwork, -rw. Now your reports persist on the host. Okay, so the Docker Compose setup. I have a Compose file with one service. Image is the GHCR stable tag. Working directory is /zap/wrk. I mount a local ./zap folder to that path. The command runs zap-baseline.py with my target URL, a 2-minute spider, and all 4 report formats. That's the whole service definition. The config file is where it gets interesting. You create a file, I call mine zap-baseline.conf, and in it you set per rule actions: fail, warn, or ignore, followed by the rule ID. You won't know the rule IDs until you run your first scan and look at the report, which is fine. Run it once with defaults, see what comes back, then tune. The important pattern is only ignore a rule when you have a written reason. Default to warn and create a ticket to follow up. And then out of scope. This is critical. You add regex patterns for URLs you don't control: Google Analytics, CDN assets, third-party scripts. Without these, your report fills up with noise from domains you can't fix, and you stop reading the reports. That's the worst outcome. A scan that runs but nobody looks at. Scheduling is just cron. I run mine Monday at 7 a.m. 07***1. The command does a cd into my kit directory, runs docker compose run --rm zap-baseline, and pipes output to a log file. I wrap it in Flock to prevent overlapping runs if a scan takes longer than expected. Now, exit codes. This is what makes the automation work. Baseline returns 0 for no failures, 1 if any rule hit fail, 2 if there are warnings but no failures, and 3 for other errors like network issues. Your downstream logic keys off these codes. I route Slack on anything non-zero. I create tickets only on exit code 1, meaning at least one fail level finding. The Slack piece is a curl post to an incoming webhook. I parse the JSON report with JQ to pull the highest severity, the finding counts, and the top alert title. Then I build a block kit payload. Header with the service name and severity, a section with the target URL and finding counts, and a context line with the exit code. Color-coded, red for fail, yellow for warn, green for clean. For tickets, I use Linear's GraphQL API. One mutation, issue create, with the team ID, a title that includes the severity and rule name, and a description linking to the HTML report. If you're on Jira, it's a REST post to /REST/API/3/issue with the same fields. Either way, it's one curl call. No middleware, no Zapier. Just the scan output piped to an API. The whole alert pipeline, Slack plus ticket creation, is maybe 20 lines of bash. It's not elegant. It doesn't need to be. Now, a thing I want to be honest about. Baseline scans are passive. They will catch header misconfigurations, missing security policies, cookie issues, information disclosure in responses. They will not catch SQL injection. They will not catch broken access controls. They will not find authorization flaws. Those require active scanning, which means Zap's full scan or their automation framework, and you should not run active scans against production. So yes, a passive baseline sweep is not a penetration test. It's not even close. If someone tells you, I run Zap weekly so my security is handled, that person is wrong. What baseline gives you is a regression safety net. It catches the things that change between deployments, the header that disappeared, the cookie flag that got dropped, the new endpoint that shipped without CSP. It's hygiene, not armor. The way I think about it, baseline is the smoke detector. You still need to not leave the stove on. But the smoke detector means you find out at 2 a.m. instead of 6 a.m. when the kitchen is gone. For deeper coverage without going active, you can add a ZAP context file. This lets you scan authenticated areas, pass -N with your context file, and -U with a low-privilege test user. The scan stays passive, but the spider can reach pages behind login. You set include and exclude regex patterns in the context to control scope. And if your app is a single-page app, you can add -J to enable the Ajax spider, but only do that on staging first. On production, keep it off until you've verified it doesn't hammer your server. My recommendation? Start with unauthenticated passive baseline on production. Run it for a few weeks. Tune your config file. Tighten the out-of-scope patterns, set your fail and warn thresholds. Once that's clean and boring, add the context for authenticated coverage on staging, and schedule a quarterly full scan on staging or a dedicated test environment for the active stuff. That's a security posture that's honest about what it covers and what it doesn't. One more piece, and this is the part people skip. You need an endpoint inventory. A simple CSV or Notion table. URL, HTTP method, authscope, rate limit, owner, and notes. Every webhook, every portal, every form. When you add a new endpoint for a client, it goes in the inventory. When you decommission one, it comes out. The inventory isn't just for ZAP. It's the document you consult when a client asks, what endpoints are exposed on my behalf? It's the thing that would have told me 5 months ago that I had a webhook endpoint I hadn't scanned since I deployed it. If you want to skip the setup friction, I put together the baseline sweep starter kit. It's on the resources page. The compose file, the config template, the endpoint inventory CSV, the Slack payload, and the Jira and linear ticket payloads. All copy-paste with brackets where you fill in your values. First run should take about 10 minutes instead of building it from scratch. So here's where we land. 5 months ago, I was brushing my teeth when a client's Friday night flash sale went sideways because of a missing header I could have caught with a 2-minute scan. Now a Docker container catches that for me every Monday before I've finished my coffee. The scan is passive. It won't break anything. The config file means I only see what matters. The exit codes drive the alerts. And the whole stack is free, open source, and runs on any machine that has Docker. If you take one thing from this episode, it's this. Don't start with the alert routing. Don't start with the ticket automation. Start with the inventory. Open a spreadsheet or a Notion table right now and list every public endpoint you manage. URL, method, authscope. That's it. Once you have the list, the scan is a single Docker command away. Everything else, the config tuning, the Slack alerts, the linear tickets, you layer on over the next couple of weeks as you learn what your reports actually look like. Inventory first, scan second, alerts third. That's the order. I'm Jordan. This is Headcount 0. Go build something.